If you thought the fact that Meghan Markle is an actress and divorcee was scandalous, you haven't heard anything yet. Royal families are known for their prim and proper appearances, but sometimes even their relationships get messy. We'll show you 10 of the most controversial royal weddings of all time. But first, if you're new around here, be sure you're subscribed for the latest from the taco. Now, on to the scandals. Prince Charles and Camilla. Maybe because he's a royal, Prince Charles got a pass on a lot of behavior that would have seemed creepy if the average person did it. We all know that he married the late Princess Diana, but before that he was dating her older sister, Lady Sarah Spencer. He first met Diana when she was only 16 years old and he was 22 years her senior. The two went on only about a dozen dates before tying the knot, but it was only a matter of time before Prince Charles started hooking up with his ex. Oh, and of course Camilla was married as well, to British Army officer Andrew Parker Bowles. Their affair was as torrid as it was poorly hidden. They even had their intimate conversations leaked long before taking screenshots of text was a thing. Diana knew about the affair, but Prince Charles and Camilla refused to stop. Since Princess Diana was a beloved public figure, this earned Prince Charles and Camilla no shortage of public scorn. In addition, Diana then went on to have her own affair with polo player James Hewitt. After their divorce and Diana's untimely passing, Prince Charles and Camilla finally got married to each other, but not without controversy. The Queen was so upset she even blew off Prince Charles' 50th birthday because she knew Camilla would be there. She also didn't attend their small civil ceremony, and neither did her husband, Prince Philip. Prince Ernst August Jr. and Ekaterina Malasheva. Another high-profile public figure that was conspicuously absent from a relative's wedding was Prince Ernest August. He was head of the deposed Royal House of Hanover and was formerly married to Princess Caroline of Monaco. But it was his son that caused him to pass up some free wedding cake. Prince Ernest August Jr. was engaged to Russian fashion designer and probably thought the tough part of wedding planning was over. That is, until his royal father made a public objection to his wedding just a few days before it was to take place.
I object. I object. I object. I object.
See, in the mid-2000s, Ernest August Sr. had deeded some of his many lucrative properties to his son for tax purposes. At this point, his fortune was estimated to be worth around $300 million, and his son acted as his representative in many cases. The board of trustees involved in the land deposed Ernest August Sr., instead putting the youngest Ernest August in charge.
But you can't do this to me.
I started this company.
This didn't go over well with the father of the groom and caused him to publicly denounce his son and his upcoming nuptials. It caused a lot of controversy and put a dark spot on an otherwise lovely wedding. Naturally, the wedding went on, but Prince Ernest August Sr. and Princess Caroline were not in attendance. King Edward VIII and Wallis Simpson. For us commoners, being a member of the royal family seems like an impossible dream. So being in line for the throne and then willfully abdicating it seems crazy. But sometimes people do crazy things when they're in love.
People always do crazy things when they're in love.
King Edward VIII is the great-uncle of Prince Charles, who we all know has his own scandalous wedding. Back when he was still just a prince, he made the acquaintance of American Wallis Simpson, who was on her second marriage at the time. In 1936, she divorced her second husband and took up with Edward, who was now king. In that same year, Edward willfully abdicated his throne in order to marry his new love. The British government wasn't a fan of the twice-wed American and told Edward that he had to end things.
Dishonor! Dishonor on your whole family! Make a note of this. Dishonor on you! Dishonor on your cow!
But he refused to do so and stated, "I have found it impossible to carry the heavy burden of responsibility without the help and support of the woman I love." This left the throne to his younger brother, the Duke of York, who would go on to become King George VI. Edward and Wallis married the same month that her divorce was finalized. Queen Beatrix and Prince Claus. We all have a past that contains things we are less than proud of, but many members of the public could never forgive Prince Claus for his past wrongs. Beatrix reigned as Queen of the Netherlands, but all that power meant that people were very wary of her potential suitors. She announced her engagement to German diplomat Claus von Amsberg in 1965, and immediately the public was upset. You see, Claus had a past that was rather checkered, and many believed made him unfit to be a prince. Growing up in Germany, he was a member of the Hitler Youth, and that's not the worst of it. He also fought for the German armed forces during World War II, and the war was very fresh in the minds of the Dutch people. There was a massive public outcry, and people actually began protesting the upcoming royal wedding. A petition against the wedding gathered over 65,000 signatures, and graffiti was spray painted all over Amsterdam. Surprisingly, Beatrix's family, including her parents Queen Juliana and King Bernard, did approve of the marriage. Because of this, Parliament approved it, and the wedding went on as planned. Prince Carl Philip and Princess Sophia. If you're wondering how to get a date with a member of a royal family, sometimes it's just being in the right place at the right time. Like when Sophia Hellqvist met Prince Carl Philip at a Swedish nightclub. This gorgeous bikini model had a colorful past and was once a prominent member of the party scene. On the other hand, Prince Carl Philip was the only son of King Carl Gustaf and Queen Sylvia. The family was much beloved by the public, who was shocked to hear of Carl Philip's engagement. Sophia was known for her hard partying lifestyle and had posed in very provocative photos for Swedish men's magazine Slits. That doesn't exactly sound like princess-like behavior, and the public was not impressed. Their engagement was heavily criticized, and many people even considered it an embarrassment to the country. However, the happy couple was undeterred by the negativity surrounding their nuptials. After dating for 5 years, they finally announced their engagement in 2014. They would go on to wed in a lavish ceremony a year later in 2015, and requested that guests make a charitable donation in lieu of giving them gifts. Princess Stephanie and Daniel Ducrouet. Even though many of these relationships had unsavory origins or were protested, at least they were for love, right? Well, the story of Princess Stephanie of Monaco and Daniel Ducrouet doesn't exactly have a fairy tale ending. Princess Stephanie was the youngest child of Rainier III, the Prince of Monaco, and Princess Grace of Monaco. She was always known for having a bit of a rebellious streak, but given the strictness of royal families, it's not that surprising. She met Daniel Ducrouet when he was hired as her bodyguard, and apparently he was doing more than guarding her body. The unwed princess became pregnant with his child, forcing Daniel to resign from his position and rocking the palace with scandal. There was no official statement, and they tried to sweep it under the rug as much as possible. But it's pretty hard to deny a crying, screaming baby, and the couple went on to have yet another child. It wasn't until they had their 2 children that they decided it was finally time that they get married. But alas, it didn't last. In fact, they were married for just over a year before calling it quits. On the bright side, their brief marriage did manage to legitimize their sons, Michael Ducrouet and Louis Robert Paul, who are the now 11th and 12th in line for the throne. Prince Johann FRISO of Orange-Nassau and Mabel Visa-Smit. It seems that controversy and Dutch royalty go hand in hand. Prince Johann FRISO of Orange-Nassau was the younger brother of King Willem-Alexander of the Netherlands. But eventually, he would lose his status as a member of the Dutch royal family due to his marriage in 2004. Members of the Dutch royal family need to get their marriage approved by Parliament first. And remember, this is the same committee that approved Queen Beatrix's marriage to Claus von Amsberg. When Prince FRISO announced that he was going to marry Mabel Visa-Smit, the Dutch cabinet refused to even seek permission from Parliament. What did she do that was so horrible? She was a prominent human rights activist and helped found many extremely important organizations, including War Child Netherlands and the European Council on Foreign Relations. But she had also been connected to the scandalous criminal and gang leader Klaas Bruinsma at some point in her past. And by connected, we mean that they had been friends in college and had since gone their separate ways. Because of this and the fact that FRISO tried to downplay this aspect of her life, the marriage was not approved.
You shall not pass!
But regardless, the two were wed in a controversial ceremony, and as a result, FRISO was no longer considered royalty. King Willem-Alexander and Queen Maxima. Queen Maxima of the Netherlands once thought the guy chatting her up at a festival in Spain was joking when he said he was royalty. But it turns out he wasn't trying to improve his odds of getting a date. She was being chatted up by King Willem Alexander of the Netherlands. At the time, Maxima was an investment banker from New York City, and the two quickly fell in love with one another. While Maxima had a squeaky clean past, the same couldn't be said about her father, Jorge Zorreguieta. He was a cabinet minister during the national reorganization process and the early years of the Dirty War in Argentina. Generally, having a family member involved in a dictatorship is an issue if you're trying to marry into a royal family, and this case was no exception. For those of you who aren't history buffs, the Dirty War was a period of severe repression, in which many people lost their lives or disappeared under a brutal regime. An investigation was launched to determine just how involved Maxima's father had been during this time. While the public raised their eyebrows, it was eventually concluded that it was unlikely he had much to do with the atrocities committed during that time. Still, he ended up being banned from attending his own daughter's wedding, and her mother chose not to attend without him. Princess Sayako and Yoshiki Kuroda. You might think that the British royal family has strict rules, but some of the rules of Japanese royalty seem downright sexist. For instance, it's totally fine for a man in the imperial family to wed a commoner while maintaining his status. However, it's strictly forbidden for women to do the same without being forced to give up their place in the imperial family. This is the situation that Princess Sayako found herself in when she dared to fall in love with someone who wasn't royalty. She's the youngest child and the only daughter of Emperor Akihito and Empress Michiko, and as she turned 30, the public wondered if she would ever marry. But she found love with Yoshiki Kuroda, a childhood friend of her brother, Prince Akishino. When the two were married, Yoshiki became the first non-aristocratic commoner to marry an imperial princess. As a result, Sayako was forced to take her husband's surname and relinquish her royal title. However, although some were shocked by her decision, many more supported it. Her parents were in attendance at her wedding, and the couple had many well-wishers. To help her settle into life as a commoner, she had to take driving lessons and practice shopping at a supermarket. Prince Albert II and Princess Charlene. Most brides simply appear to glow on their wedding day, but the same can't be said for Princess Charlene. Despite her multi-day wedding being a lavish affair where no expense was spared, it's hard to think of it as a happy day, at least for Charlene. She was married to Albert II, Prince of Monaco, but theirs wasn't exactly a fairy tale romance. Over the years, Albert had not one but two children out of wedlock, and not with Charlene. The births of Jasmine Grace Grimaldi and Alexander Coste made international headlines, but it wasn't enough to make Charlene leave her man. After dating for 11 years, Albert and Charlene were headed towards the altar, when just a few days before the wedding, news of a third child surfaced. Rumors surfaced that Charlene was desperate to know if the rumors were true or not, while the clock ticked down until their wedding. The couple spent $55 million on their 2-day-long wedding, but all the money in the world can't buy a happy bride. Spectators couldn't help but notice that Charlene cried through the wedding ceremony and recoiled when Albert leaned in for a kiss. Later, Charlene would give birth to a pair of twin girls who became Albert's legitimate children and joined the line of succession to the throne. Which royal couple do you think was the most scandalous? Let us know if you'd had wanted to be a fly on the wall at their wedding in the comments section. And don't forget to subscribe to the Taco for more videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.